It's Nick's forecast, the 18th of February, Friday night. Just coming here to tell you a little bit. It's kind of some real estate in general going on. Kind of shout out Jeff Highland. He just passed away of Hilton. He was a innovator in high-end real estate in Los Angeles, but he was a high-end innovator just in real estate in general, especially for high-end markets. Him and his partner did a lot of innovative stuff for Hilton and Highland. They're based in Beverly Hills. They're pretty interesting lot. I've seen them on interviews before and stuff like that. And ran across, I've seen them at seminars down in California before. So they're pretty interesting. Anyways, just give a shout out to that. Anyways, back to real estate stuff. For buyers, sellers, investors, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, kind of across the board, is rates kind of coming up. Basically, kind of the world shock. Right, do invade Ukraine, just a matter of time. It'll send shockwaves through the oil system, basically, and I mean by system, the price will go up, but shockwaves through the inflationary stuff that's already going on now. And that leads me kind of my next thing is because almost 70% of the public's living paycheck to paycheck. It was on drudgery. And it's bad. If you're in a real high-end coastal city, it's one thing. But if you live in the interior parts of the U.S., Southwest, Midwest, South thing, but even then, it's still, it's harder for buyers to buy, and that means there's not as much people to buy product right now. You got kind of certain areas of the country have a lack of, but still only a certain number of buyers can buy, and so that's a problem. Even with the rates at 4%, a lot of people been getting over at 4%, but they haven't seen 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14% to buy a property. So just one of those things where something you have to consider. You're gonna have to save some cash up to do it, and you have to take more jobs, and this kind of affects real estate agent mortgage brokers. They have less to go ahead and buy because they can't afford to do it, especially with the inflationary stuff going on right now. The cost analysis today for Walmart, and it went way up. I mean, Walmart's got a pretty tight shop group running product. Target, same. It's costing them. You got chains like Cost Cutters, Hy-Vee, even a small chain like Schnucks, and it's based from Missouri all the way to Wisconsin. Hy-Vee's in a bunch of states too. Then you got Big Giant Way, and basically Kroger. There's the big ones. Price King. I mean, there's a bunch of other places, Price Chopper, excuse me. And you've got some big places, Public, which is owned by a big Kroger, I think. So you got all these prices that are going through, and it cuts into the dollars they can afford to buy, and down the road that could affect the credit, which affects the DTI of trying to buying a home. It's different for someone that's buying an apartment building, or a commercial building. It's kind of for deal because they already have cash, so they can pound at 20, 25, 30% and go ahead and get a finance at a. But buying a house is a whole different deal, and it sends shockwaves through the real system. And when the Russians do invade, which will be any day now, it can send shockwaves through the financial systems, everything else. Right now, there was a report out today that the Biden administration Treasury Department, the Treasurer is telling all the banks to alert because a lot of the Ukrainian banks got hacked today. So that could be a problem too, and that could have effect on a lot of different things. Also, too, be effects in the stock market taking a massive plunge. You're talking 2 to 4, 6, 8, 10,000 points, in 1 or 2 days. And all this has an effect on everything. That'll force it up a lot more. It'll still be pretty low, but still will keep forcing it. The Fed will be forced to increase rates even more. So state as itself, the bubble could really burst and things will massively slow down in a lot of directions, and it'll have an effect. It'll make 2008 look like a joke if it goes the distance. So I'm just saying to you, these are things to look for estate agent or mortgage broker. You need to factor a lot in to your estimates. And I've seen some of the stuff that some of these big mortgages sent out in banks, but it's not realistic to what's going on in the world because you got a China and India problem, and China has been moving a lot of ships and aircraft right now, even during the Olympic Games into Taiwan. That could be another problem, and also too the problem with India and China, line of excursions by the Chinese. Well, I'm just telling you this, it has an indirect effect on real estate, and basically if you're an investor, you're just a buyer or a seller, they're looking to say your market thing can get quick, and these shocks can have a major effect on these shocks can have a major effect across the board on the real estate. What I'm saying to you is just, if you have to buy, try to get in there and get a deal done. But the thing is, for the real estate agent, mortgage brokers, as with fewer buyers, eventually is going to be a lot of inventory on the market. It's going to get tough. So these are things we're thinking about. And the problem is that a lot of the coastal areas and Chicago, even Nashville, what happens is there's not a lot of planning by any of the real estate broker owners or the mortgage broker owners, because mortgage brokers generally are 10 people or less at shop. Real estate brokers vary, but a lot of times they don't prepare agents for stocks because they don't follow world events, because they really don't affect anything, but it will affect stuff. Like 9/11 did have an effect, because I remember going through that. It was at that time, a lot of real estate in the hopper, this and that, a lot of things had to get put on hold. I remember I had deals going through in 1 month, and 25 were real estate, and the other were mortgage deals. And then all of a sudden I got put up, and then it went into the next month. And now I had 140 deals, and my cousin had and what happens is the stuff get piled up, and none of it you could get it to mortgage shock with a lot of the brokers and basically listing shock and this. So a lot affected a lot of things. It took a few months for it to iron out. So what I'm saying to you is that things like this, wars, can really do a lot of damage indirectly, especially as the U.S. is invested right now, basically indirectly into that because of all the arms shipments and all that and whatever else is going on. And a lot of the, you don't know what's going on up at the Pentagon or the White House, and the news doesn't tell you a lot. So, and this is on the net, and, because there's unlimited intelligence. So, but the thing is, there's enough information out now. And what I'm saying is just everything is indirectly affects markets. And so, it's just one of those things you need. If you're getting a list of property, if you're a buyer, things could indirect. If a sub gets sunk, U.S. sub, Russian boat gets hit, and I mean by boat, aircraft carrier, or a frigate or destroyer, a marine troop carrier gets hit in the Baltic area, the Mediterranean, or South China Sea, if China decides to attack Taiwan, or basically the Sea of Japan, a lot of the stuff. So you have a lot of back channeling stuff, even in the Bengal Bay in India. A lot of that can happen because they've been shipped. And of course, you're saying, well, why are you telling me? Because what will happen is banks get freaked out, and they're going to start pulling stuff, and so are the hedge funds. They get funding right now. Basically could go away real quick, 20-30% down, something 20% down for residential. That has a shock effect when basically for commercial buildings, but even now with the still been shocked, but a lot of companies are starting, besides doing the home stuff, a lot of people have done, a lot of starting to lease space again, but still could be shocks. And there's an effect, but also too, the big thing is going to be cyber attacks. That's why I'm bringing this up, because the cyber attacks, they go in and they hit a bank or a hedge fund or whatever, treasury or who knows what. They could shut down the banking system for a little bit, or really mess with the stock market, or they hit particulars and they could just have a terrible effect on everything. So it could be problems because a lot of stuff is electronically done. And if you're sitting there and you're a real estate agent or the listing agent, and you're the buyer's agent, and you're the mortgage broker, there's a purchase and sale that you're sending DocuSign over to somebody that lives in the East, buying a house in Seattle, and they've come out and looked, and now they're coming back and they want to move because of some job, and all of a sudden you can't get anything through the internet because it's all down for whatever reason, or Google got hit, or whatever. I'm just hypothesizing, but you got what I'm saying. So I'm just saying, keep the stuff tight. There's a possible have to, instead of emailing it, because if the email shocks get hit, or because they get in and the hackers busted the system, or the hacker got into a bank, or a hacker got into a giant mortgage company, or whatever. I'm just saying these are things just you need to think about immediately, because invasions into countries can get bad. So there's a multi-invasion in multi-countries, and the shock waves can lead through the world economy, because it's going to slow stuff up, because the housing market's going to get popped soon. So especially with the inflationary problem going on, and they're going to have to raise rates. Right now they're at 4, which is still really low. I think anything under 6% is pretty low, because when I started, it was in the high 7s, low 8s, 5. So and that's a lot different than it is now, where the rates are super low. People have been getting over for a while, but those days are going to be coming to an end here pretty soon. I'm just saying to you, as investors, buyers, sellers, these are things to look at. Sellers in certain coastal areas, the West Coast, East Coast, you're going to still work the pricing, but in other areas, and outside those areas, outside the big cities, is going to be a different deal. You have, as a seller down the road, if the market gets hit, a lot of equity, you're going to have to price way more aggressively. So you can price near the top. It's going to have to be down towards the bottom of it. You'll still make money on it, but that's the only way it's going to move. And especially with the problem with the like the war on drugs today, about people living 70% of the population, that's something that you have to think about, because it's less and less for agents and mortgage brokers, but it's less for the sellers. Now, in a hot area, that's right, like Seattle or Portland, or metropolitan area, San Francisco or something like that, Chicago, LA, San Diego, or New York or Rhode Island, or or something like that. That's a different deal. Or Boston, for that matter, Chicago, Nashville, pretty hot areas, Park City, Utah, some Salt Lake area, Phoenix, but there's a lot of areas. The U.S. is a big place. There's a lot of aren't as hot, even close, a whole different deal. So, like I said, I'm just bringing this up to you, the general public, just so you kind of get a good understanding on a little bit if you haven't following the news. But I'm just looking at impacts on the market. Anyways, just doing a short one today or tonight. Anyways, go to nickforecast.com or to Facebook at nickforecast, and if you have questions. Anyways, have a good night.